Welcome to our launch of Toast and Talk with Ages with our champion guest here this afternoon, Michelle. Of course, she is known for her fire. So we're just going to wait for others to join. This is exciting. When you're in a room with greatness, it is phenomenal. It is always phenomenal. So, Michelle, tell me, how is it going? How was your day today?
Busy.
I know.
Juggling, wearing 15, 16 hats, trying to make everybody happy and get through it with my sanity. Yeah, good. Busy's good though. Busy's good. You know, the day goes by and you feel productive. So yeah, it's been good. How was your day?
I had a busy day. Of course, you're playing every hat. You're a mother. You're a profession. You're a friend. So it's always good to becoming more. As I see myself, and I will tell others, you're taking on the role of being a multiplayer, right? Whether you want to do it or not.
I think it's ironic too, because it almost makes you feel like if you had to go out there and apply for jobs, you could apply to 10 different jobs, 15 different jobs. I can be a chef. I can be a chauffeur, I guess. I could do all kinds of things because that's what we do anyway. So, yeah,
that's the thing. It's always amazing when you think about, what has happened within the last year has allowed us to take on so many different roles, so many different hats, and now we are becoming master in a lot of things. So
yeah,
that's a good thing. Yes, it was a hard, tough year for all of us, but we're learning to pivot, right?
It's amazing. It's amazing how many people have found themselves in situations where they never thought in a million years that they would have pivoted to something new, transition, made just big changes. Like major decisions that they normally wouldn't have been made, or they didn't think they could make smoothly, and they did it. Yeah.
Okay. So it's always good. Always good.
Yeah.
So welcome to our viewers this afternoon. I hope you were able to join into our launch of having Toast and Talk with Ages and our champion guest, Michelle. It's always good to have, people with us because this is how we're going to grow. It's all about celebrating the champion in the room and to have her share her journey so she can also inspire others to become their best.
All right.
So we are ready. Are you ready to go?
I'm ready. Ready as I'll ever be.
All right. So good afternoon. Welcome to another stimulating episode of Toast and Talk with Ages, a celebration to toast women champions and be inspired by their phenomenal journey. Toast and Talk with Ages is an inspirational interview series to celebrate champions who have withstood the odds, broken barriers, conquered fear, and have broke the glass ceiling of success. In our exchange, we will unravel those narratives by talking about individuals, your path, your sacrifices, and why are you on fire to helping others. So, Michelle, welcome to Toast and Talk with Ages. How can we not toast? That's the name of our thing. So,
your drink is so much better than mine. Wait, I have my water and I have cold coffee from this afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
Drop it like a sloth. So
there you go.
Yeah.
Right. So it's all about, sometimes we need that coffee to bring us up. So welcome. We applaud you for what you do and what you continue to do. And I can't wait to hear more.
Absolutely. So what can I start with? What's the burning question? Put me on the spot. Go ahead.
I'm going to put you on the spot. But first, everybody's asking, who is this champion? Who is Michelle? So, of course, I'm going to give a little summary of who Michelle is. Michelle is known as the Bounce Back Ability Coach with over 20 years of corporate sales, leadership coaching, and territory management experience, right? What is she known for? To make difference in the lives of others. Early in her sales career, Michelle realized the need for both effective training coupled with ongoing coaching accountability. And of course, accountability is very vital in growth. Michelle is recognized as a 2-time LinkedIn Top 100 Sales Star. So as I mentioned before, that's why she is a champion. She was also the president for the National Association of Women Sales Professionals, right? She's also a Harvard graduate where she studied negotiation mastery. And also, she had the opportunity of speaking with the renowned Oprah Winfrey. I mean, who gets that, right? So it just speaks of her eloquence and how important she is and how she goes for what she wants. And we're going to learn more from her today in regards to coaching, in regards to empowerment, in regards to realizing who you are and not allowing your failure to become your outcome. So, Michelle, welcome. I'm so happy to have you, and I look forward to learning more.
Oh, well, thank you for having me. That was quite an introduction. I need to learn how to take praise and compliments a little bit better like that. I'm working on it. I'm still like, wait a minute, you're talking about me?
Yes,
Thank
yes.
you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Of course, this is why you're here. You're here to be, for us to celebrate you and to always acknowledge. And it's always wise for us to acknowledge who we are, right? That's the only way that we're going to grow. We have to acknowledge ourselves too. And here we're here to Toast and Talk is here to do that.
Love it.
So, Michelle, as we begin our conversation,
yeah,
I'm going to be taking you down memory lane. But before we begin, I just want to make sure we are recording this. I'm hoping. So sorry about that. So as we proceed, we're going to talk about who you are. We're going to take you down memory lane. Who is this fire? Who is Michelle? So Michelle, tell us, what role did your upbringing, played in you achieving, your prosperity, your success, and becoming a champion today?
That's a great question. I appreciate you asking. I think that growing up in a household where both of my parents worked full time, very hard, they were very driven, very eager to succeed. I had the best of both worlds. And what I mean by that is my dad was a sales champion. My dad was, entrepreneurial and was a sales executive, and he instilled like work ethic and really going for it and being fearless and relentless in his pursuit of what he wanted. He always played the long game. He taught me so many lessons along the way. He put himself out there and helped people and didn't look at it as just like a job, a career. Like he knew that he was making a difference in people's lives, and he valued relationships and conversations. My mom, not because she's my mom, the best teacher I've ever known. She was a middle school teacher, also worked with high school kids as well. She was a high school teacher for a couple of years in Manhattan. And she was one of those teachers that really put her heart and soul into it and made a difference in the lives of her students for years, like over 30 years. She would have people coming up for open school night. There was, a line in the hallway of parents like wrapped around the hallway. Like they wanted to meet her because the kids would all talk about her. They loved her. They requested her class. She stayed in touch with them. Like she's still on Facebook connected with kids that she had 20 years ago. It's amazing. So that was my upbringing, and they were my role models. And then my grandmother went to college when my grandmother and I were like best friends. She went to college. She went to NYU. Women weren't going to college, in 1940, right? In the late 30s. So besides that, she was a model, and she was on billboards for Chesterfield cigarettes, and she was an athletic coach. And then she went on to starting and owning her own business, a high-end clothing business for 35 years. Like she was a go-getter. So I was just surrounded by this all the time. It just was second nature to me.
Michelle, as I listen to you, I realize you're coming from you're standing on the shoulders of powerful women.
My great grandmother too. She and my great grandfather owned, I don't how many locations, also a clothing business. They had, I think, 8 or 10 locations. And yeah, like in my family, women didn't like sit back and, like just, hang, not that anyone does, whether you're a stay-at-home mom or you're working, but like, I just don't know from that. It was always, be driven and go after what you want, and the sky's the limit and there's nothing holding you back, whether you're male, female, whatever. Like, just, the world is your oyster, right?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's powerful to hear, because in those days, as you mentioned, we as women would have to be in the background. So to know that she was seeing the importance of stepping up and, occupying her space, that's really profound.
Yeah, absolutely. I had big shoes to fill.
Yes, you do. And you're doing so, graciously, right? And I can see why you're so influenced by giving back to others and empowering others, because this is what you know. This is your childhood.
100%. And I think that it's so common that so many people, men or women, we put ourselves out there, and we're relentless, and we keep moving forward because we want to excel at what we do and like move up the ladder and all of that. But I've noticed, at least in my career, like I did that for way too long to make a difference to the people I was working for, to senior leadership, to owners of the company, and, the C-suite. And when you don't get back what you really want, not so much in terms of like money and bonuses and stuff, and not even the recognition, but if you don't feel like you're really appreciated and you're making a difference, you end up relying on that as your barometer. And you're never forced to look inward and say, like, but am I making myself happy? Am I doing everything I can do? Am I being the best I can be? And when you start to pivot from pleasing others to like asking yourself, like, what pleases me? What makes me happy? Where do I feel the best? Where am I the most productive? Where am I showing up where I feel the most authentic? When you start changing that narrative in your head, it's amazing what happens. Amazing.
Absolutely. Powerful things happen when we change our mindset. So
Not easy, but so worth it. Yep.
Of course. So would you say that your upbringing allowed you to identify your purpose?
That's another awesome question. My upbringing set the foundation for my work ethic and just how I view opportunities, right? That like I can do whatever I want and I can go for it. But my upbringing didn't have a direct effect on where I ended up. Like I started in sales when I was very young, and that's obviously because of my upbringing. And I saw my dad, and my grandfather was with the same corporation for 50 years. He even started, I think, as a stock boy and worked his way up. He retired as the executive vice president. It was a department store company. So it was in my blood, but I always wanted to be an attorney. I was bent on becoming an attorney, pre-law, interned at law firms every year, went to court with the attorneys. And I mean, I really invested heavily in this. My whole education, like pre-law in college, took the LSATs. And at the 11th hour, I pulled the plug and I didn't send out the applications. I didn't do any of it. I switched gears altogether. Total 180. 180.
Wow. What caused you to change?
You're going to laugh. So when I was a senior in high school, I wanted to, like I was ready to start working and make a little extra beer money, right, with my friends and whatever. So my mom joined, she bought a gym membership at Bally's back then, like Bally Total Fitness. And I went along for the ride, and she's signing up, right? And the manager is going over like the plan and, explaining everything. And I'm watching this back and forth. And I'm like, wow, like I've never sat in on an entire presentation. And it was great. That woman ended up offering me a job, and I took a job. I was 18. I worked part-time, right? And in the course of like a couple of months, I knew that this was something for me. I felt it. I felt like, oh my God, like this is like, I can make a living doing this. Like I'm having fun. This is incredible. I'm having conversations with people. I'm making them happy. I'm offering them things that can change their life. And it just felt natural. And so I ended up working there. And for the company, I was promoted and moved around a lot. And then I ended up becoming the Northeast regional sales trainer, and I was like 21 years old. But I stayed with that company for 7.5 years, all through
Mm.
college, and then a few years after college. And that's why I pulled the plug.
Oh,
Yep.
wow. So you found your purpose. You found your path by
By,
just
by accident.
by accident.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's
And that
true.
happens sometimes, you know. But even though you stood there for 7 years, there's so much more that you've done, right? Tell us about that, because you were the president of this really dynamic sales network group for sales individuals, and you pilot that program in the New York City area. Tell us more about that role.
Absolutely. So, and I've been getting better at this, like shortening the story because it's such a long story. I was part of a big layoff back in early 2019. And at that point, I knew like I could go back to doing what I've been doing for such a long time, right? In a different industry, or I can finally pursue what I want to do. And I wanted to move away from a sales role. Even though I'd been successful in a sales role, I really wanted to do coaching and training. And so, on top of interviewing throughout 2019, I started showing up more often on LinkedIn, and I started striking up conversations, connecting with people. And I connected with Cynthia, and we hit it off right away. And, she's the founder and CEO. So I just developed a nice friendship with her, and I got more and more involved. And then eventually she wanted to launch a chapter in this area, and we talked about it, and I did it. Unfortunately, though, we were supposed to have a big launch event in the city, and it was around the time of, when the pandemic started. So the whole thing was canceled. But I was, doing that, and I was working in that role on top of doing what I was doing. That wasn't like a paid position, but I was passionate about it, and I still am. It just got overwhelming with all the things I was doing, and I had to chop some things down in order to focus on like my children and my career and whatnot. But yeah, it was just something that I felt very wholeheartedly about. And especially in my area here, it's like, why isn't there a bigger presence? Let's do this.
Thank you, Michelle. But you mentioned that, even though you didn't continue with that, you pivoted. And what did you do now? Where are you now? Tell us about that platform that you're creating. Tell us about that path.
Because I wanted the coaching, the training piece so badly, even throughout my entire career. Even though I was a sales professional and I was an individual contributor, there was always a big chunk of my job that I would volunteer for, or it would be, offered to me to coach new hires, to work with people on my team, to do things within the region that I was in, even nationally. I always volunteered for those things, leadership positions. I loved doing it. And that was my end goal. But I was also in an industry where like that wasn't the norm, right? Like maybe some people did it, but it was normal for everybody to want to keep going up the ladder in a sales leadership role. So throughout 2019, I interviewed for positions that, trainer positions in the industry and a few others. And it was just a rough year. Like a lot of people have gone through that last year. I feel like my 2019 was what a lot of people went through last year. It was hard. And there were a lot of personal things that I went through in 2019 that were just debilitating personally and professionally, and so close together. And at the time when I was going through it, it wasn't like I was this, like made of steel, right? Like deflecting all of these things. Like I was, I got knocked down pretty bad. I got knocked down pretty low. But I think when you get knocked down that low and there's nowhere else to go but up, you realize that like you can't just coast. Like you can't depend on like your friends, your family, courses, books, inspirational messages, podcasts. Like that crap won't work anymore. When like you're really low, you've got to dig deep down inside of yourself and show yourself what you're made of. And that's what I had to do. I just couldn't coast anymore. So I decided to go for it and walk away from corporate America altogether, which was really hard because it was stability, it was money, it was notoriety, it was everything that I knew. But I wouldn't know what I'm capable of unless I just go for it. So that's what I did. I just started showing up on LinkedIn, making connections, meeting people, coaching. Like I went for it.
And that's powerful. And that's where and I always say that LinkedIn is so powerful. We're
Oh my God.
connecting with champions, we're learning so many things. So, and because of the pandemic, that's why we are able to use a different platform of reaching out, right?
Yeah.
You also mentioned about, you taking on this role where you're now having your firm, and congratulations, right?
Thank
Your
you.
firm, which we know that is Bounce Back. Tell us about that, because I know you're a Phoenix. And why Phoenix? Tell us what gave you that motivation to say, okay, I need to have, a theme. I need to have a title. Why my title should be I Shall Rise. And tell us more about that.
So I can't sit here and look you in the eye or in a camera and tell you that, oh, this is something that followed me my whole life. It didn't. It didn't. I realized it and I made the assimilation probably early last year. And it was after all of that stuff that I went through.
Mm-hmm.
And I always knew what a phoenix was, but it clicked for me that it's a mythological bird that, dies, that burns to ashes and keeps renewing itself from its own ashes over and over and over again. And I was like, oh my God, like I felt it in my bones. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I wasn't afraid of getting a tattoo. I'd get one, but I don't. But yeah, so that kind of like morphed into part of my identity. And it also encompasses like resilience
Mm-hmm.
and coming back with more fire and better and stronger and more just a feeling of more renewal, like stronger renewal. So I kind of took that on, and it followed me for a while. And then when I decided to go out on my own and create this company, which right now is just me, but who knows, one day, right? I didn't want to just come up with like a catchy slogan, or like I was rattling my brain about it, and then I'm like, wait a minute, like I need to go with this Phoenix thing. Like, even if I call myself the bounce back ability coach because it's catchy,
Mm-hmm.
I needed something that is very true and unique and authentic to me, and so that's where it came from.
And you chose the right thing, right? Because that's you, right? Even though you've been down, you you saw that as a platform of rising, and that's great. And
Yeah,
we've been talking a lot because that's how we met. We met through LinkedIn
yeah,
about your bounce back ability consulting firm. And there's so much that we're learning. I do apologize. So much that we're learning from the ability of not staying there, right? And who
right.
better to start a company than you, right? Because you've gone through it. So I applaud you, and I can't wait to learn more about. Of course, we need to talk, because sometimes we all need a coach. And I know how dynamic you are, because you're always about building and growing and becoming your best, and not allowing the noise and everything else around us. So I do applaud you, and I wish you all the best in your consulting firm. And for persons who are viewing, if you think now is the time for you to really pivot, if it's time for you to, look at who you are and where you're at, and we all want to grow, but sometimes we need that help. This is where Michelle comes in. She'll allow you to really fulfill those dreams by creating your own roadmap. So thank you.
Sure, sure. I think that I shouldn't even say I know. All of us want better, right? We want
Mm-hmm.
we want to we want to level up, right? We want bigger things. And I'm not talking about materialistic things. Like, we want more out of life. We want to continue to evolve. Everybody wants that, right? And it's not that there are people that can make that happen and then there are people that can't. I think all of us can make it happen. I just think that we get caught up in our own heads so much. And if we're not sharing these things with people, or getting a mentor, or getting advice, or if we don't have the proper sounding board and we're talking to people that just tell us what we want to hear, not what we need to hear, that's where the disconnect is. It's not like I have some magic secret recipe that like I can do it better than anybody else. And I'll say this on this program right now. I don't have superpowers. I just have a way of neutralizing the positive and the negative, and helping people dig a little bit deeper and ask themselves certain questions, and uncovering things that may have been and still are holding them back. That's really what it is. It's not just like being a cheerleader and having the secret sauce. Like, it's a lot deeper than that.
Of course, of
Yeah.
course. Because it's not about just saying, okay, I have your back, but it's allowing you to see where your weaknesses are and help you to improve. So,
And you brought up a really good point before. You were talking about, accountability.
yes,
Is crucial. When we're held accountable, we do crazy stuff. Like we do epic stuff, right? If no one is holding you accountable and you're like, no, I'll hold myself accountable. If you slack off and you don't do what you say you'll do, nobody's going to know who like, it's like, oh, whatever. It's like, oh, I'm going to go to the gym tomorrow. And then you sleep an hour late and you're like, oh, it's okay. The accountability, that's where it is. I lost over 40 pounds. Why? I'm not going to sit here and say I'm super motivated. I was driven and determined. No, I hired a coach to get on my ass. You know what I'm saying? Like every send me pictures of your food, get on the scale once a week. Like I needed accountability. And that's where it's at.
Perfect. We all need someone. We all need someone to be there for us. Perfect. Right. So Michelle, how do you keep yourself grounded?
That's a toughie. How do I keep myself grounded? And I'm being completely honest with this, not even when I am knocked down about anything, personally, professionally, it could be anything. I don't sit here and say, oh, I have to think happy thoughts and go to my happy place and start meditating and breathing. Like, I'm not saying those things don't work. They do work. Mm-hmm. But for me, what is very powerful is allowing myself to feel whatever it is I'm feeling. If I'm feeling, knocked down, if I'm feeling negative, insecure, like whatever, I feel all those things. I think all those things at times. We all do. I give myself permission to feel them. And it's ironic because I was talking to a friend today who felt kind of down also. And then I said to her, you know what? If you need to stay in your like dark place, here's the rule. And I give myself this rule and I'll share it with you and everybody else. You can go into your dark place, your cave, whatever it is. But the limit for me is like 24 hours. Mm. Now, that doesn't mean in 24 hours, like I'm golden and I'm like happy, right? It just means that like after 24 hours, I got to get out of that place and, refocus, right? And like redirect my attention. If I want to go back to that dark place and feel it again, I can. It might take me 6 months, but I can't do it back to back because 48 hours can become 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. So by doing that, you're like incrementally pushing yourself out of that. And it kind of shortens the duration of a funk. Mm-hmm. So those are like some of the little things that I do. Call them tricks, call them whatever it is. They work. And that's how you kind of rewire your brain and shift your mindset. You have to do the work. You have to take the time and like put in the steps. Yeah.
Perfect. Those tips to keep us going.
Yeah, because otherwise you're swimming upstream, because in your mind, you're like, you feel guilty. You're like, I can't stay in this place and I can't be down and I can't be negative and I can't be this and that. And the more pressure that you put on yourself to get out of the funk, mm-hmm. it drives you deeper into it.
Yes.
And if you end up reaching out to the people that really can't help you and they're just kind of like cheerleading for you and like, oh, get over it, it's going to be okay, that makes it worse. Mm-hmm. So again, you have to dig down inside, deep down inside, and do things on your own that will pull yourself out of that.
Perfect. Perfectly said. So just to confirm, to talk more about that, you are an executive leader, you are a speaker, you're a coach, you're a CEO. And I know that for persons who are, successful, persons who are climbing, they always attribute their growth to some form of affirmation, some habit, some system. Tell us, Michelle, what's your system?
My system has evolved over the years and it has completely changed numerous times. And I think but for myself and what I think a lot of people do is we depend on everyone else validating us, right? Like we need our affirmations, whether it's that pat on the back, so to speak, or your name in lights, right? Or a company email that goes out or a shout out online. Like that obviously makes us feel warm and fuzzy, right? It's like, hey, I'm doing a good job. But then if we rely on that, it reminds me of like when kids play, like the participation trophies, like everyone gets a trophy, like Oprah, like you get a trophy and you get a trophy. Like you can't, it's toxic in a way because then you become reliant on that. And then if you're not getting it, like let's say you move and like move to another company and you're working for someone new and they're not like that. And you end up gauging your capability on everybody else's, perception of it and whether or not they acknowledge you. They might think you're amazing, but if they don't say it or put it in writing, then you think that you're not good and you're not good enough. So knowing that pattern and having gone through that, I just decided that it's very important to surround yourself with people that are either on your level and that they get you and they understand like where you're going and what it takes to get there, or they're higher and they make you level up and step up your game. And it's a saying, but it's true. Like you become a combination of like the 5 people you spend the most time with. So if you're spending your time with like Debbie Downers, and like people that are just like whining and complaining or not celebrating your wins or not genuinely happy for you or not challenging you, like there's friends and they're like for each thing, right? They're friends for seasons and friends for reasons. I mean, like just whether it's friends, mentors, people you work with, whatever it is, if you surround yourself with people that make you level up and bring the best of you out, it's a win-win. It really is.
I agree, because sometimes you need different persons for different situation, right? And you just mentioned about accountability. And yes, when we were in high school, right, we'll get a trophy for participation, for being present.
Yeah.
But sometimes, it's, do I really need to get this to really see who I am? Do I need to get attributes? Or can I, without even receiving an attribute, know that I am really capable of accomplishing anything? And I too need to maybe appreciate myself too. So thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely. And we also, just to add one thing, we have to learn how to fail effectively, and people talk about this all the time about failing forward. I'm not going to say it doesn't hurt. I'm not going to say it doesn't strip you of your ego and like affect you. Of course it does. But there's a difference between being affected by failure and then having it take over your entire life where like, it wasn't just something you failed at, but you're a failure. There's a stark difference between the two. So there are always lessons to be learned in failure. And I think that the most growth I've gone through is in those difficult, uncomfortable moments when I failed and I had to like redeem myself and bounce back. So you can't escape that. You can't avoid that, right? And people try to do it, right? And then they're like, what happened? Like you can't avoid it. You have to learn how to go through it gracefully.
I agree. So we're 6 months into 2021. What's coming out? Because I know that you're a fire, right? What's new? What should we look forward to? Do you want to give a little away?
Yeah, I mean, there's really nothing on my radar that is so different than what I'm doing right now. I've been working with clients all year. So for me, whether I was, working with a team or now working on my own, like I've, ongoing coaching with clients, mainly one-on-one the whole time. So it wasn't like there was a gap in between, for any amount of time. Like I've just been doing this, I don't talk about it all the time. I don't put everything out there. I think there's a level of anonymity that people respect, right? So, but as far as like what's coming up, I'm interested in working with groups, like more groups, right? I'm working one-on-one with people. I'm proud to say that I have clients in India, in Canada, in the UK. I'm about to start working with someone, hopefully, in Singapore, Australia. So I would have never been able to do that had it not been for the pandemic and had it not been for me being on LinkedIn daily and doing what I do. So just to know that I have clients that are like all over the globe, I'm excited about that. I'm so excited because I meet people and I work with them and they're on the other side of the world and they were raised differently and everything's different. But because I'm working with them, I'm learning about them and I'm realizing how similar we are. And that is a lesson that unless people really jump into that and learn that, it's just something they hear about. But it's amazing. It's amazing to know that you could talk to people all over the world. And when you get to know them, you realize how similar you are. Different races, different ethnicities, cultures, everything. It's amazing. Amazing.
Congratulations. You know, you're now global. So congratulations.
I don't know if I'd call it that, but
Guess what? If you're outside of your zone, right? You're all over. That's the level of impact that you're doing. And it's not because of, say, okay, I'm doing this because of a sum of money, but because of your passion, your purpose. And people are realizing that I need to be connected with persons who have like-minded attributes. So perfect. I am excited for you, and this is really a moment to toast you, because now you're spreading, right? Now you're really that phoenix. You're really rising, and I'm really grateful for that. Congratulations.
Thank you. And the only thing I want to hear about spreading is hopefully this: no more viruses.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, but that's my goal for the rest of the year, to continue doing what I'm doing, but also to get more into workshops, whether it's here, whether it's, in other countries, and to kind of do things on a larger scale, because I've done that before and I'm ready to take that on. Yeah.
Perfect. So if you're out there and you're looking to motivate your group, right? Especially after the COVID, we all need some form of motivation. We all need some, leadership skills and qualities to help push our team along. This is the ideal person to go to, because she's done it for years in different nature. It's not just that she's in one area in sales, but she's done it in diverse career path, and she really knows what to do, right? It's all about laying everything on the table and identifying what's really important. So thank you for sharing that, Michelle.
Absolutely, sure.
So Michelle, what sets your soul on fire? I need to ask you that question.
What sets my soul on fire is when I either have a conversation with somebody, I work with somebody, a client, when I spend some time with them and brainstorm with them and just go through, the usual conversations, especially like if we're role playing and prepping for something, whether it's interviews they're going on, or they have to give a presentation in front of people, or whatever it may be. What sets my soul on fire is when somebody has like an aha moment, and then they go and apply things that we discussed together, that we learned, right? And that we kind of like manifested, and then they go and use it, they implement it, and it's a home run. And they come back to me and they tell me, and they're so excited. Like I can see it in their eyes. I can hear it in their voice. It's probably one of the most fulfilling things in my entire life, because I know that I had a dent in that. I know that I made some sort of an impact, and it's just the most gratifying thing. It's like we were talking before about being validated and like getting affirmations, and like that pat on the back. When I get this type of feedback from people, I did it myself, right? Like they're thanking me and they're appreciative, but I'm doing it and I created it, like it came from me. I wasn't doing it with the goal of having like, the big boss like pat me on the back, right? And we can still work for companies and report to senior leaders and also do this for ourselves. The goal is not to rely on them for all of it, because if they don't give it, we look inward and then we think we're failing. We have to learn how to do that for ourselves. But that's my answer, and I'm sticking to it because it's true.
That's a beautiful, beautiful answer. Thank you so much.
Sure.
You're and that's leadership, and that's coaching too. You're celebrating others who are learning. So thank you.
I've had people turn around to me and in a roundabout way, and they would say, everybody on LinkedIn is a coach. All you have to do is change your title, and there's millions of coaches, and everybody thinks they know it all, and everybody's a guru. And I just listen. And this used to bother me in the beginning. I honestly used to think that unless I went and got a certification and got that on my profile and my resume, that I am back in my imposter syndrome bubble, right? And I thought about it, and I'm like, you know what? I don't need that to define me and what I'm capable of. I've got over 20 years of experience. I know what it takes to not only help people with handling objections, negotiating, asking the right discovery questions, uncovering pain points, needs, wants, building rapport, creating, different prospecting techniques. I do all that anyway. I just infuse a lot of the human condition in that. So I move away from all the processes and all the, the modules and all the scripts, and I make it human, because people are human. We need that. So when I used to get those statements or those questions and it would bother me, it took me a while. And my answer to them is now, and it will always be, like, if I need that to really drive the point home, and that's what you need to understand, that, I'm capable, then we're probably not going to be a good fit. So, and I mean that.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
Yeah, that's true. You have to identify, the nature and the dynamic that you're able to work with. So thank you for that.
Sure, of course.
So, Michelle, we have gone through a path. We've spoken about you as, your younger self, spoken about who you are, your challenges, your successes, everything that, you've gone through. What counsel would you give to your younger self?
I don't want to sound like like cliche with one of those quotes. I memorized so many of them. I think that I would tell my younger self to just stop being so wrapped up in what if I make a mistake, and what if I make the wrong decision. And I was always that cautious kid and that cautious teenager, afraid to take a leap because, well, what if it goes sour? What if it goes, this way? And I would probably tell myself, like, listen, you're courageous, you're confident, you know who you are. And if you make mistakes along the way, like, you'll learn. Like, just keep going and stop overthinking everything. My mom's been saying that to me forever. She has this saying, like, you take a seed and make it an oak tree in a matter of minutes. I've been using that like my whole life. It's getting a little better now, right? I don't do it as much, but yeah, I would just keep going and trust that you're doing the right thing, and it's all going to make sense. Yeah.
Perfect. Keep going and trust yourself. I like that, because if we're not trusting ourselves, then sometimes many things will pass us. We're not seeing it, right? So trusting is important. So thank you. And I'm sure your younger self would love that.
Absolutely. But on the flip side, how does a typical 10, 15, 20-year-old, like, how would they even know that? They haven't been out in the working world. They haven't interacted with people. They haven't gone through certain hardships and overcome certain obstacles as adults, like, right, as a kid. So we're not wired, our younger selves, like, we weren't wired to understand all that.
Yeah.
So it's almost like we're protected, right? And you grow through what you go through.
So true. So what, think about it now, right? What letter would you write to yourself in the next 10 years? How do you see yourself in the next 10 years?
Now, just to clarify, do you mean like 10 years from now? Or in other words, let's say if I'm writing that letter now, it's to myself in the future.
Okay. So let me restate it.
Sorry.
Right? If you should write to yourself a letter in the next 10 years, say 2031, what would that letter say?
You want to hear something funny? I did an exercise like this.
Wow.
Almost 2 years ago, I went on a trip with some friends. One of my friends is a coach, and she was doing an event over a couple of days. And all of us were sitting in a room, and we all had like these journals out. We were writing. And of course, there was like the perfect music in the background, like the same music that you would see on an ASPCA commercial that makes you cry, So it was a similar question, though. It's like, you're 100 years old, right? And you want to write your younger self a letter.
Wow.
And what would you, 3 minutes in, I was like hysterical, but it was worth it. But the same answer that I wrote about then, I'll tell you now. I would write a letter and I would praise myself.
There you go.
I would praise myself for not letting every blow, every, knock down, like not letting that really take away the wind from my sails, that I
Mhm.
handled everything with grace, and I handled everything with just being a strong person, and knowing that I'm strong enough, and I'm determined enough, and I have the mindset to overcome everything. So it
Mhm.
would be one of those letters, just, like, you did it, girl. You set out to do XYZ, and maybe you took like 50 different turns, and but you got back on the path and on the road, and you didn't give up. So
You did it.
I did it.
Perfect. You did it.
and,
Perfectly said.
and you didn't let other people define you. Like, you evolved on your own, and it was on
Mhm.
your terms. Like Frank Sinatra's song, like "My Way," like I did it my
I
way.
did it my way, right?
Yeah, that's
Mhm.
it. Yeah, I won't let anybody define me anymore, and like tell me what I can and can't do, and what I'm
No.
capable of, and I won't. Sorry, it's the harsh truth.
Yes. It's
Yeah,
my time now. It's my time to take
yeah.
control and do what I need to do. So perfect. You
Life's
did
too,
it.
life's too short. I
Yeah.
don't I don't need a participation trophy.
No, we don't need that. We don't need that. So, Michelle, we are at the end of our interview. What an amazing path. You have, thank you so much for welcoming us to sit at your table,
Sure.
welcoming us to start reading your book. And then as we started reading, you unfold all those different chapters. We have learned so much from you in regards to not giving up,
Yeah.
in regards to listen, but you should know what to take away, being accountable. So I've learned so many valuable information so that I can go on, and I'm sure my listeners as well will learn. But for viewers who are listening right now, who are unsure of their purpose, they're trapped by their challenges, they're afraid to break barriers. How can you inspire them to become their best and to really step out and become that phoenix?
That's great. I love that. And I probably couldn't answer this like a year ago, right? Because like I was still in limbo. I would say stop pressuring yourself to wake up one morning and flip a switch. It doesn't happen like that. And whoever is making you believe that, they're full of it. It doesn't happen like that.
Mhm.
You have two things. Number one, you have to be willing, like honestly, you have to like look deep inside yourself and answer this. You have to be willing to get a little uncomfortable. You have to be willing to try things, and to be put in situations that might not feel like warm and fuzzy, but in your heart that you have to, because the long game is what it's all about. And what I mean by that is, if you have to step outside of your comfort zone, right? And you've got to do like the hard things, even if it's journaling every day, if it's writing down like all the times during the day that you had negative thoughts about yourself, that you doubted yourself, like all of that, that's uncomfortable. And then then you can flip it to start to recognize when you're feeling good about yourself. Like it doesn't it's not a light switch. You just have to get uncomfortable and take these little steps. And it's not about the big overnight like epiphany that you have. It's these
Mhm.
small steps you take, and over time you build momentum, and you start like taking back your confidence. And that's how resilience is built, on top of everything that we're going through anyway. But
Yes.
you have to do the work and get uncomfortable a little
Mhm.
bit each day or each week, whatever it is.
Powerful. Well said. Thank you so much. Taking small tips, right? Don't believe it's going to be overnight,
It's
but
not.
trusting your process, right?
Whether we're trying to get out of a funk, whether we're trying to pivot, transition, whether we're trying to overcome some major obstacles, whatever it is, like
Mhm.
even if we're in a sales role,
Yep.
right? And like we think that we just heard a great presentation, or we bought a book. I mean, all that stuff is great, don't get me wrong, but you're not going to take one course or read one like dynamite book, and then like as soon as you close the book, all right, I'm on fire and I'm going to change the game and like change everything about it. And it doesn't work like that. You have to put the work in. You have to like beta test it, right? You have to do it. So Yeah,
And it takes time.
it does. And it's okay. It's
It's
okay.
okay. And you're going to fail as well.
And that's fine too. Just recognize where you failed and what happened and how you can change that outcome next time. Like
Yeah.
look for the patterns, look for the problems and solve them and learn along the way.
Yes. Michelle, I am inspired by your journey. I am liberated by your path. You have given us your roadmap so that we can reflect and see the importance of creating our roadmap. It's not going to be easy, but as I will always say, you will never know where you're going if you haven't started. It's all about stepping out.
That's it. That's it. That's the hardest thing we can possibly do. It's the decision to start.
Yes.
That is harder than actually doing it half the time. Yep. Yep.
So as you listen today, remember, start, step out, and remember, you're going to fail, right? Michelle tells you that. She have gone through it. She knows what it is to bounce back. So take a look at yourself and see where you need to, and sometimes you need to remove things as well, right? Sometimes you need to rewrite that book. You need to put away that journal and purchase a new book and start writing a new chapter. Because sometimes that's when you're going to unravel and you're going to realize that, oh, really, I have this within me. Okay, I have the creative side. Or maybe I'll realize that the thing that fears me most is what's going to allow me to evolve. So it's always good to do that. So Michelle, thank you for coming out. Thank you so much for all our viewers. I hope you are inspired. I'm inspired. I'm pumped. I'm ready to go. If you are you're reflecting as you listen and you realize that you need help, reach out to Michelle. This is not a platform to say it's not a sales platform. It's an inspiration platform. But remember, we all need help. Why not go to an expert so that we too can become masters in whatever we're creating? Right? So I thank you for listening. I hope you'll subscribe. And as you go, remember, you should create your path. You should trust your process, and you should soar for prosperity. Have a wonderful evening, and thank you.
Thank
Michelle,
you so much.
Thank you so much, and all the best.
I appreciate it. This was wonderful. Wonderful. It's great to talk to you as usual.
Of course, and we'll talk again and continue to be that fire. That's who you are. That fire. Doesn't matter what the noises are. It doesn't matter how many rain will be pouring down on that fire, but you are going to rise, and you'll continue to rise as a phoenix. So I do thank you.
Well, and I thank you, and bring everybody along with me. We can all rise together.
You remember, you have to have my space. It doesn't matter how full that bus is. I'm going to get on, if it is even on the back.
Now I will make room for you every time.
Thank you, my dear. Thank you so much. And you have a wonderful evening.